Up to LeBron reaching 40,000 regular season points on Saturday, the closest active player to LeBron is Kevin Durant. In 17 seasons, Durant has scored 28,372 points. If Durant maintains his 27.7 average, and that's a big if, he would need to play at least 5 more years to reach 40,000. What LeBron has done might not be duplicated, at least not anytime soon. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. Recently, the Washington Post ran a major story which in sum reveals that racial discrimination in jury selection persists in America. Most often, the practice occurs through a legal tactic called peremptory challenge, which allows an attorney to strike a potential juror without having to state a reason. In the 1986 Batson Doctrine, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the use of peremptory challenges to exclude potential jurors solely based on their race violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. By the way, the late great Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall despised peremptory challenges. New data in the Washington Post story underscores that nearly 40 years after the Batson decision, the problem remains widespread. One study in the Deep South found that black jurors are being challenged and dismissed at double and triple the rates of other prospective jurors. Bottom line, it's racist, it's wrong, and it's pervasive, even as research shows that racially diverse juries spend more time deliberating, make fewer errors, and can result in fairer trials. One of the arguments in the Ninth Circuit appeal, brought by former LA City Councilman Mark Ridley Thomas, is about violation of that Batson Doctrine. In its case against MRT, the U.S. Attorney's Office struck black women from the jury pool based on demeanor and employment status, a clear violation of the law. A long list of high-profile black law professors, historians, and justice centers have now filed amicus briefs in support of MRT's position. But the irony of a black elected official who for more than 3 decades represented the best interests of his black constituents having black women voters struck from his jury pool is repugnant and morally wrong. So much for being judged by a jury of your peers. MRT's legal team argues correctly in its filing that given well-established law and legal principles set forth by the Supreme Court, Ninth Circuit, and state courts and legislatures, the Ninth Circuit should likewise reaffirm and clearly state that applying facially neutral justifications in discriminatory ways to target black women and other protected groups presumptively violates Batson. I couldn't agree more. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Tavis Smiley. We welcome your comments. I'm Tavis Smiley, and that's Bobby Brown, and the guy across from me, live in studio as promised. I said at the top of the show today we'd go toe-to-toe, face-to-face, as long as he showed up.
You think I was going to show up, Tavis? Larry's out in the parking lot. He's afraid to come in. I don't think so. The black face of white supremacy is in the house.
Larry Elder is on Tavis Smiley right now for the hour, and I'm delighted to have him here. For those who don't know the backstory, so Larry and I agree on practically nothing.
That's not true. We agree on a lot, but you don't want to tell your people. You don't be kicked out of the village.
Is that what it is? I can speak for myself, Larry Elder. Don't you start that. Larry and I have known each other for years, for decades, in fact. When I was on we both were on a local station here in L.A. called KABC, granddaddy of talk radio for years. And I was actually on KBC when Larry came. And so he and I spent some time together years ago on KBC Talk Radio in Los Angeles. This program, of course,
we used to have dinner. I picked up the check. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I was happy about that. But we're heard across the country, of course, in syndication. And so I just wanted to give the national audience a bit of the backstory for those who don't know how long you and I have known each other. So we've known each other for a long time, haven't always agreed, but every now and then we get together and have a tete-a-tete. And so today's one of our tete-a-tetes. We will see what this hour brings. Perhaps Larry will be enlightened. Perhaps he will leave here changing positions.
Tavis is going to need a cut, man, by the time it's all over. So I got to come here and mop up the blood.
Oh, is that what it is? Is that what it is?
Yep.
Okay, let's get this party started then. Let me start with the news of the day. All jokes aside, the Supreme Court has ruled that Donald Trump will be on the ballot in Colorado, and for that matter, all 50 states. I predicted this. I mean, when you saw the oral arguments, it was clear to me that the justices had questions about it. What is striking for some people, again, not for me, and you're the Michigan lawyer here, I'm not. It was a unanimous decision that he will be on the ballot in all 50 states. Your thoughts?
Right. Well, after the Colorado made their decision, I tweeted right away, the Supreme Court's going to rule 9-0 against them. This is an absurd decision. Their argument, as you know, was that Donald Trump committed insurrection on January 6th, and Section 3 of the 14th Amendment precludes anybody who's been engaging in insurrection from running for office and being in office. Well, Donald Trump's never been charged with insurrection. None of the rioters on January 6th have been charged with insurrection, let alone been convicted of it. Mm-hmm. So some Colorado court determined that Donald Trump shouldn't be on the ballot because of that. By the way, 30 other states have made the same decision not to put Donald Trump on the ballot because of January 6th. Think about that. You have all 9 of the Supreme Court justices, including the liberal ones, Sonia Sotomayor and Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson, all siding with the conservatives. This is absurd. Yet more than half of the states felt that Donald Trump was ineligible to run for office because of this. This is how crazy much of the country is. Talk about Trump derangement syndrome. It is a pandemic. You have the majority of states and a lot of the pundits on television, CNN and MSNBC, agreeing with the Colorado decision, but all 9 of the Supreme Court say it's nonsense. Then maybe somebody needs to rethink their assumptions about Donald Trump. Let
me ask you this. This occurred to me when I saw that decision. Again, it was not unexpected for me, but there's a rub here. It's your party, the Republican Party, that's always talking, always advancing agenda historically, much to the chagrin and the detriment of black people historically, always advanced this notion of states' rights. What happened to states' rights? Why do these states all of a sudden not have the right to determine whether or not on their ballot Donald Trump should appear? What happened to states' rights?
Because the criteria to run for president is set forth by the Constitution. You have to be over 35 years old, you have to have resided in the country 14 years, and you have to be a natural born citizen. That's it. The states cannot come up with some criterion on their own and alter that. That's why we have the Constitution.
So my question is, why is that argument good enough for you in this instance, but historically it's not been good enough for your party in all these other instances?
I've answered the question.
Ronald Reagan is let me finish. Ronald Reagan is the one with a nod to states' rights. Your boy, Ronald Reagan, goes to Philadelphia, Mississippi, where they killed Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney to announce that he's running for president. Why is a guy from California going to Philadelphia, Mississippi? It was a nod to states' rights. The GOP has always done that, but in this instance, you ain't down with states' rights.
I'm down with the Constitution that sets forth the criteria for president. And you can't have a state, whether it's Colorado or whether it's Maine, where the Secretary of State, who wasn't even an elected official, also made the same determination that Donald Trump shouldn't be on the ballot because of January 6th.
But it was a Supreme Court in Colorado. It wasn't just some random court. It was the Supreme Court.
And it was a 4-3 decision, interestingly enough. All 7 of the justices of the Colorado Supreme Court were appointed by Democrats, yet 3 of them thought it was nonsense. So it's a ridiculous decision, and the 9-0 decision by the U.S. Supreme Court suggests that it's ridiculous.
Just getting started. It's going to be fun. Larry Elder's our guest. You're listening to him right now on Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Hi there, I'm Steve Dunwitty, a progressive veteran, educator, and candidate for Congressional District 30, which is Adam Schiff's open seat covering the Hollywood area, Burbank, and Glendale. I'm reminding you to vote in our March 5th primary for me, Steve Dunwitty, to represent us in Washington, D.C. As the only black candidate in the race, I'll go to work for our community, to get funding for affordable housing and support to help get the homeless off the streets, to bring the cost of living for food and things we need down, and to ensure there's public safety and accountability. I'll also keep up the call for reparations. Once again, this is Steve Dunwitty reminding you to cast your ballot by March 5th. Please go to www.stevedunwittyforcongress.com. This ad was paid for by Steve Dunwitty for Congress.
Jeff, I'm standing courtside where this team is about to celebrate a staggering win here in the fourth quarter. I just spoke with the team captain, who told me they owe it all to Kohl's, where fans found the license gear, game day hosting fines, and other essentials they needed to rally this team to victory. He said, quote, "Great brands, great prices. Discover it all at Kohl's and Kohl's.com. Back to you."
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
When you're rolling Charmin Ultra Soft on the party, less is more, so roll it back, everybody. Charmin's irresistibly soft and hella nice. The grip is always soft. It's our party vibe. She's cushioning things so our cheeks feel fine. So what? Everybody wanna touch the sky.
Charmin Ultra Soft is irresistibly soft and more absorbent, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Larry Elder, who was just telling me during that break that what were you saying, Larry?
I said your states' rights argument is insane. Suppose Georgia all of a sudden decided to reinstate slavery. Would you then say, well, states have a right to reinstate slavery? There's something called the 14th Amendment, 13th Amendment. That's abolished it.
No, you missed my point. I did not say I was for states' rights. That ain't what I said, Negro. I said that your party always stands for states' rights.
The correct term is African American.
Okay, well, for you, for you.
Would you have known that?
Okay. Well, I didn't say I was for states'
Well, at least
rights.
you didn't call me the blackface of white supremacy.
No, but you called yourself that.
He's not yet.
You called yourself that, and that was Freudian.
It was Erica D. Smith, a columnist with the LA Times, who called me that.
Yeah. So let me get back to this seriously, though. I did not say I was for states' rights. I abhor states' rights in this regard. As I said, historically, it is a frame that black folk have been in that has not been good for us. But your party is the party of states' rights, and all of a sudden, in this instance, you don't want to let the states decide whether or not they think Donald Trump has violated their laws and their rules and their ethics. You don't want the states to decide. In this case, now you want the Supreme Court to respond. But that ain't been the argument for all these other years.
The Supreme Court has set forth certain kinds of things that states cannot do.
Right.
And one of them is to violate the 14th Amendment, equal protection. One of them is to violate the 13th Amendment that outlawed slavery and so forth.
Yeah.
So suppose a state decided to refuse to allow women to vote. Mm-hmm. There was an amendment to the Constitution that allows women to vote. If a state decided that they don't want to follow that, that would be unlawful.
Mm-hmm. No, as I said earlier, my point is, we'll move on. My point is clear. I did not say I was for states' rights. My press was why your party has always been for it, except in this instance, I digress. Let's move on, though. I think I want to start here. Take me back to, since I got you for the hour, take me back to why you decided to run for president in this cycle, and why, when you got out, you endorsed Donald Trump.
Well, when I ran as an America First guy, a pro-Trump guy, and I did not say one negative thing about him. The reason I ran is because I felt that our party, including Donald Trump, was failing to talk about some very, very important issues that I thought were important. If I could get the party nominee, and I assumed it was going to be Trump, to talk about them, then I feel I've done my service to my party and, more importantly, to my country. And number one is We do not talk at all about the epidemic of fatherlessness, which I consider to be the number one social problem in America, and particularly the number one social problem in black America. 70% of black kids today enter the world without a father in the home, married to the mother, and the numbers are clear. When you're raised without a father in the home, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. We're not talking about it at all. We've launched a so-called war on poverty in the mid-'60s, a Democrat named Lyndon Johnson did. And the percentage of blacks entering the world without a father in the home went from 25% to 70% today. What we've done is incentivize women to marry the government and incentivize men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. And nobody's talking about it. Republicans refuse to talk about it because they're afraid of being accused of being racist. Democrats don't talk about it because they're the ones who created the problem. The other big issue that we're not talking about is the acute need for school choice in urban America. I know our party, Republican Party, is a party of school choice, but I don't think people realize how bad it is. You got 13 public high schools, Tavis, in Baltimore, all located in the inner city. 0% of the kids can do math at grade level. There are 52 public schools in Chicago, all located in the inner city. 0% of the kids can do math at grade level. 85% of black 8th graders, these are 13-year-old black kids nationwide, can neither read nor do math at grade level. Half can't even do basic reading. And the Democratic Party has a nerve to oppose school choice, while Obama and Joe Biden and people like Kamala Harris have all sent their own kids to private school. It is outrageous. The other big issue, we spend way too much in America. You look at the debt we have, the deficit we have, and the so-called entitlements programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, they're on automatic pilot. Even Bill Clinton said the same thing. Barack Obama said they're unsustainable. We needed an amendment to the Constitution to fix spending to a certain percentage of the GDP, with exceptions maybe for war and natural disaster. Otherwise, government gets bigger and bigger, whether Ronald Reagan is in office or Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. Let me take all three of your points. Okay. To your last point, I'm glad you acknowledge that reality exists no matter who's in office, Democrat or Republican.
Agreed.
Fair enough. On the second issue that you raised, school choice. Why is the issue always school choice rather than how we make all schools choice? Here's my point. If the majority of American kids, not just the kids of those politicians that you mentioned earlier, and I take that point, there's some hypocrisy in that they want to advance the public education agenda. They send their kids to private school. Every parent has the right to self-determination. I'm mad about that. But I hear your argument about the subtle hypocrisy when people do that. But the question for me is, if the majority of American kids, no matter what color they are going to heretofore be subjected to being educated in a public school system, that's the fact. That's just the fact. Most of these kids are not going to be in private schools. Why is the conversation always about school choice rather, Larry, than how we make all schools choice?
Well, you cannot have excellence without competition. And the studies have shown that when you have school choice in a given city, that city's public schools also get better because they don't want to lose students. So if we're going to really make sure that people can actually read, write, and compute at grade level when they graduate from school, whether it's private school or charter school or completely private school, you've got to have competition. All too often, we don't have any competition. The money should follow the child rather than the other way around, and the parents should dictate where that money goes. And once that happens, you're going to have all sorts of schools like the Marcus Garvey School we have here in Los Angeles springing up to capture those dollars.
Competition is a legitimate argument, and yet the question, I think, for me is whether or not you truly believe that we, unlike a country, say Finland, whether we truly value our teachers. If we really value teachers the way we do talk show hosts, Larry Elder, and athletes and entertainers, we would do better by them. Maybe the answer is in part that we don't value teachers in the way we should.
I don't think that's it at all. I think what we ought to be doing is talking about whether or not you have to have a teacher credential in order to teach. There are a lot of people who would make excellent teachers, but because of the requirement that you have to have a teacher credential, there are people who've been in the military, for example, who can't go into teaching. I don't think it has anything to do with that. It has to do with the quality of the teachers that we have right now. And we have something in California called the CBEST test that teachers used to have to pass a test to make sure they had basic math, basic reading, basic this, basic that. A lot of teachers failed it, so they did away with it. So you have a lot of unqualified teachers teaching kids in the inner city.
So if I take your argument, if I agree with you that maybe it is about the quality of our teachers, you don't see the connect I'm making between the quality of the teachers and what we pay them?
If you are if you argue that teachers should be paid based upon what they produce, I could not agree with you more. We ought to pay great teachers a great deal of money and bad teachers a very little amount of money so they get out of the profession. Everybody remembers the one or two amazing teachers that they had growing up, K through 12. And those teachers should have been paid 3 or 4 times what the other teachers were making. The teacher that can make math light up, teacher that can make history light up. Everybody knows a handful of teachers. They ought to be treated like rock stars and paid like rock stars.
What about what your guy, President George W. Bush, once referred to as the soft bigotry of low expectations of these black students?
I agree that there is something called the soft bigotry of low expectations. That's why schools like Piney Woods
in
Mississippi, they just have a documentary out about them right now on Hulu. They have very high expectations. They have a no excuse ideology, no excuse philosophy on campus, and I believe that a lot of times teachers teach at the lowest denominator. Look at Marva Collins in Chicago. These had kids reading Shakespeare in the 3rd and 4th grade. So holding kids up to high expectations, having a no excuse philosophy is exactly what we ought to be doing.
But you grant,
all too often that's not the case with these K through 12 public schools.
But you grant, though, it's not the kids' fault. Kids shouldn't be punished for that.
They most certainly shouldn't be punished for that.
All right.
Yeah. Parents need to emphasize education as well. It's a parent's job to deliver on the school doorstep a kid who's been fed, clothed, housed, educated, and trained to be disciplined enough to learn. All too often, parents are not doing that, and they're expecting the teachers to be parents, to be philosophers, to be guidance counselors, and all sorts of things that they're not trained to do.
We agree in this regard, and I've said many, many times that the schools, I've been to schools all across this country speaking and appearing, and right. I've discovered this, without regard to whether they are public or private, the schools that do best in this country are the schools where parents are involved.
Absolutely.
It does require parental involvement. So ding, 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 we found one thing, 22 minutes in, that we agree on. I've gone in reverse order. Your first point was about welfare. Let me just ask you to acknowledge and admit, Larry Elder, that there is a complicity that the government has in what you all call the welfare state. You know this as well as I do, that if the father is in the home, oftentimes the mother gets penalized by the government in getting the support that they need to raise those babies. So it's not just you indicting black people, indicting fatherless.
I didn't say anything about black people. I said what happened I said Lyndon Johnson launching the so-called war on poverty, induced women to marry the government and men to abandon their financial responsibility.
But I've heard you in the past indict black men. So my point is black families.
No, I did not.
I have indeed heard you say that, Larry.
Name something I've said. Name something I've said.
Okay, I'm not going to pull a quote out of my behind right now, Larry. The point is, I've known you for years.
I don't want to see that.
I've heard. I don't want to see it either.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to smell it.
I have heard you. I have heard you critique.
Tell me what I said.
Fatherlessness.
Tell me what I said.
That's not my point. Let's stay focused. Yeah. Here's my point. Yeah. That's not my point.
You make a point. You can't back it up. We move it on.
No. My point is simply this. My point is that it's not just about critiquing fatherlessness without also critiquing the government and its complicity in that.
I just said that we've gone from 25% of black kids being raised without a father in 1965. By the way, it was 8% white kids. Now it's 25% of white kids today. So it's destroyed the incentive for all races because we've given a financial incentive for women to marry the government and a financial incentive for men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility.
Okay, so your argument started out as a critique of fatherlessness, and what I need to hear more of is what is your critique of the government in that regard?
I critique fatherlessness. The cause of it is what we just now talked about, what the government has done to incentivize women to marry the government and incentivize men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. It has been a neutron bomb dropped on the family that Lyndon Johnson and the Democrats did in the mid-'60s.
Okay. I said a moment ago, I asked, we haven't got to that part yet, I asked when you got out of the race why you endorsed Donald Trump. Before you answer that, I did a brief commentary in the first hour today of our program. I want to reprise that commentary, which I think you will like because I know you, but I want to flip it once you hear it. So, Miles, let's play that editorial, the commentary that I offered in the first hour for Larry Elder to hear.
Ain't nobody's fault but mine.
Let me start by saying I do not believe President Joe Biden has been given the credit he deserves for what he has accomplished against some pretty strong headwinds. Respect or no respect, I also do not believe that at this point President Biden has any interest or intent to step down. To be clear, I am not now, nor have I heretofore suggested, that he should stand down. That decision, is the purview of the president and his party. But here's my simple question, given the existential threat that we now face in Donald Trump knowing he'll be on the ballot in all 50 states. If this Biden-Trump rematch is a fight that nobody wants to see, if a majority of President Biden's 2020 voters now think that he is too old to be effective, if Vice President Kamala Harris is viewed less favorably than President Biden, if over 100,000 voters in a critical primary state like Michigan, which he barely won in 2020, recently voted uncommitted, even as Vice President Harris yesterday finally called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, and if young voters are still losing faith and feeling disaffected, if the president's black numbers are soft at best, and a sizable number of black men, rightly or wrongly, are considering options other than President Biden, if independent candidates, including Cornel West, RFK Jr., Jill Stein, and others, are gaining ballot access right now in states all across the country, and if every poll, survey, and study finds the same data, the same concerns about his age and his ability to lead the country effectively, which would seem to indicate a trend, not just a real-time snapshot, not just a media narrative, here is my question. If come November, after all the warning signs hidden in plain sight, President Biden loses this election to Donald Trump, whose fault is it? Who we gonna blame? So that was my commentary from the first hour.
Easy to answer.
Yeah. What's the answer for you?
The person to blame is Joe Biden.
Okay, fair enough.
What Joe Biden did on day one is reverse the Donald Trump policies on the border that gave us the most secure border we ever had. On day one, he reversed all of the pro-drilling procedures under Donald Trump. He spent a bunch of money that caused inflation. He pulled out of Afghanistan against the advice of his top generals, which, in my opinion, motivated Putin, motivated the premier of China, motivated Iran. He has been the worst president I've ever seen. I think history is going to put him down as the worst president ever.
Okay, I want to interrogate that in a second because that's ridiculous. There's a poll that just came out on President's Day that has him ranked 11.
Yeah,
the 11th best president.
A bunch of left-wing historians.
These are all historians, man. They're not all left-wing, but they ranked him. And again, one could debate that. My point is, there's no way you could believe that he's the worst.
Name something. Name something. Donald Trump. Name something. Excuse me. Joe Biden has done that you think has been positive. Just one thing.
No. I'm asking the questions here. My question for you.
I thought we were having a conversation.
We are having a conversation.
Okay, then.
And I'm happy to answer your question.
Inflation, gas prices, borders,
you honestly,
crime.
Hold on. I want to make sure that I heard you correctly and that the audience heard you correctly. After 4 years of Donald Trump, you believe that Joe Biden is the worst president this country has ever had.
I do. Donald Trump gave us the most secure border ever, as I said earlier. Gas prices were low. Inflation was low. Interest rates were low. Our enemies feared us. Our friends respected us. Joe Biden has reversed all of that, which is why he is underwater on virtually every issue. The only issues above water on are abortion and climate change. He's underwater on the borders. He's underwater on gas prices. He's underwater on inflation. The average person is spending $11,000 more for the same goods and services he or she bought 3 years ago, while not getting an $11,000 raise over the course of the last 3 years. That's why people are losing ground. That's why 2/3 of Americans believe we're on the wrong track.
You make this easy for me every time you come on the program. And by making it easy, I mean I ask you certain questions, you give certain answers. I ain't got to fight you. The audience hears very clearly that you are deranged. You are delusional.
You think most of the people who are listening,
believe that Joe Biden is the worst president this country's ever had, and you're going to sing Donald's praises. Your answers speak for themselves.
You think most people who are listening to us are better off now than they were 3 years ago? Really?
I think that most people. I think I have a very smart audience, and I think that most of my audience would think that you are out of your mind to suggest, whatever you think of Donald Trump, that Joe Biden is the worst president ever. That you get caught up in the hyperbole, man. You got to speak truth.
Why do you suppose Donald Trump has now lost the Hispanic vote, and about 1/3 of blacks now say they won't vote for him? That's never happened before.
You meant Trump. You meant Biden, not Trump.
I'm sorry, Biden.
Yeah. Hold that thought.
Probably about 10 million illegal aliens will be in this country by the end of his term.
It's the
outrageous.
It's the hyperbole that gets me. And nowhere in the world that you could really believe
what president has allowed 10 million.
Joe Biden is the worst president.
What president has allowed 10 million illegal aliens to come to the country?
When we come
other
forward,
than Joe Biden.
I knew you'd like the commentary, and you jumped to your answer. I let you give it, but when we come forward, I'm going to flip this thing, because if y'all lose,
you're going to attempt to flip this.
No, I ain't going to attempt, brother. I'm going to do a Simone Biles dismount. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to dismount like Simone Biles.
Tavis, you want to take it outside?
No,
you want to take it outside?
We can do that afterwards.
Take it outside.
We can do that too.
Miles, you can referee.
We can do that too. When we come forward, we're going to flip it.
He's going to need a cut man.
If in fact the Republicans lose this election in November, whose fault is that going to be? That's the question when we come forward.
Fair enough.
Our guest is Larry Elder, and I'm Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says the cause of the Smokehouse Creek fire in the Panhandle is now under investigation. The fire started a week ago and is now the largest wildfire in Texas history, having scorched more than 1 million acres and killed 2 people. Several other fires are also raging in the area. A Colorado paramedic was sentenced Friday to 5 years in prison after he was found liable in the death of Elijah McClain. Peter Kuchuniak, along with fellow paramedic Jeremy Cooper, were both found guilty of criminally negligent homicide after they gave the 23-year-old unarmed black man a lethal dose of ketamine while he was being restrained by police in 2019. Cooper is set to be sentenced in April. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
The link between Los Angeles and 6 Southern California counties. MetroLink is your transportation link between the people and places you care about. Whichever link you're making, MetroLink will be your in-between. Visit MetroLinkTrains.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers won a tough game at Minnesota on Sunday against the number 2 team in the Western Conference. The Clippers held on for a 1-point win in a game where neither team scored more than 90, and James Harden was 0 for 10 from the floor. Kawhi Leonard sank 2 free throws with 13 seconds left to seal it. Kawhi finished with a game-high 32. The Clippers are at Milwaukee tonight. The Lakers are back in action tonight at home against Oklahoma City. A follow-up to LeBron reaching 40,000 regular season points on Saturday. The closest active player to LeBron is Kevin Durant. In 17 seasons, Durant has scored 28,372 points. If Durant maintains his 27.7 average, and that's a big if, he would need to play at least 5 more years to reach 40,000. What LeBron has done might not be duplicated, at least not anytime soon. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice, and injustice. The courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Areva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Areva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Febreze. So my home is also my office. And before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up, then spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Your floors can go from clean to dirty fast. From juice spills, whoops, to muddy paw prints, to little sticky finger marks. Good thing your Swiffer WetJet works fast too. Swiffer WetJet easily cleans everyday messes as quick as they happen. The next mess is right around the corner. So grab your Swiffer WetJet and just spray, push, all clean.
Don't settle for bumps, ingrowns, and itch due to dry skin. Venus for Pubic Hair and Skin is here with the only razor and regimen specifically designed for your pubic area, featuring a razor with a patented irritation defense bar and skincare regimen that is dermatologist and gynecologist tested. Venus helps protect your pubic skin from shave irritation. Visit GilletteVenus.com to learn more about our full regimen of products.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
More of Tavis Smiley and Larry Elder right now. As you well know, I am unapologetically progressive in my views, in my politics, and every now and then.
My condolences.
Every now and then, I don't mind arguing with my friends on the other side. Perhaps one day they can enlighten me on something, but this ain't that day so far, Larry Elder.
Well, I did enlighten you on one thing a few years ago.
What was that?
You and Cornel West were on,
right.
And I was telling you that under Ronald Reagan, black adult unemployment fell faster than white adult unemployment did. Hispanic unemployment fell faster. Black businesses grew faster. The revenues grew faster. You said it was not true. You put the numbers on my desk on Monday. That was almost 15 years ago. I'm waiting.
Yeah, you come back to that argument all the time, and you know.
Am I wrong?
True. Yeah, you're wrong. You're wrong.
So you'll be putting you'll be putting the correct information on.
I just
got lost in the mail. I know the mail is bad, but Tavis, that was 15 years ago. You put something in the mail and I never got it.
I think as the years go by, the evidence of the damage that Ronald Wilson Reagan did to this country grows and grows and grows. So I don't need to have that debate with you, arguing with you. I do want to ask you this, though. A moment ago, you said that...
You can go on YouTube. For Tavis's listeners, go on YouTube, type in Larry Elder, Tavis Smiley, and you'll see a big picture of Ronald Reagan, and you can watch the whole 4 or 5 minute exchange that I had with Cornel West and Tavis about what I just now said. Yeah. And to this day, I've never received the data that refutes what I said.
Cornel West and I ain't got time. Cornel's running for president. I'm trying to empower people. I ain't got time to be fooling with you, Larry Elder.
You don't have time for facts.
Let me just ask you. Speaking of facts, let me ask you this. You offered an opinion a moment ago that Joe Biden, to your mind, is the worst president in history. Which again, let me pause for a second. When you say stuff like that, do you ever worry that takes away from any credibility? Hold on, let me get my question out and I'll let you respond. When you say stuff like that, that's just laughable. Do you ever worry that when you're trying to make inroads and get people to take you seriously, that kind of hyperbolic exchange and comment gets people to look at you and just laugh? They can't take you seriously, Larry.
40-year high on inflation. Gas prices twice what they were when Donald Trump left office. Borders wide open, 10 million illegal aliens coming in this country. And a pullout from Afghanistan that a lot of military leaders believe is the worst military decision this country has ever made. Add it all up, it's bad.
It can't be worse than Vietnam, Larry. Where's your history, man? Do your history. Here again, you're back on this hyperbole.
What do you mean it can't be worse than Vietnam?
Hold up. Here you're back to this hyperbole. I'm just trying to, as your friend, I'm trying to help you be taken more seriously, man. This is why you didn't win for president. Because you put this hyperbole out there and people can't take you seriously. You said the worst military decision in history. Have you forgotten about Vietnam? Come on, Larry. I'm trying to help you, brother.
I'm talking about what a single president did.
You said the worst military decision in history. That's what you said. That came out of your mouth.
One of the worst military decisions in history.
No, you didn't say one. You said the worst.
That's right. One of the worst ones.
Okay, now you want to make it one of.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. I think it probably is the worst military decision this country ever made.
And I'm asking you, is that worse? Is that worse than the decision to go into Vietnam? Yes or no? Is it worse than Vietnam?
Vietnam was more complicated.
Is it worse than Vietnam?
Vietnam was more complicated.
Is it worse than Vietnam?
Vietnam is more complicated, and I think the decision to go to war in Vietnam can be defended on some level. What happened with what Joe Biden did cannot be defended by any level. He ignored his military leaders who told him that if you pulled out like this, the Taliban would return, the Afghan government would collapse. He left $7 billion of military equipment there. 13 military service persons lost their lives, and didn't warn our allies we were doing this. It caused Putin to, in my opinion, invade Ukraine. It caused the Hamas to do what they did with Israel. They feel we have a weak, feckless commander-in-chief that's unleashed all of these negative kinds of things that happen in our country. Then you have gas prices. This guy has launched his war on oil and gas prices were double what they were. They've come down a little bit, but they double what they were when Donald Trump left office. We have 40-year high of inflation. We have, by the time Joe Biden leaves office, we're going to have 10 million illegal aliens in this country. Several of them are on the terror watch list. We have no idea who they are, what they're doing. And the people that are hurt the most by this are black people living in the inner city who have to compete against them for jobs, and they put downward pressure on their wages. All of which, you add it all up, it's been an absolute disaster for 3 years, which is why the American people don't want this guy to have another 4 years.
I let you run your talking points. Another history lesson for you, though. So you're wrong about the fact it's worse than Vietnam, number one. And number two, go just read Robert McNamara's memoir. Robert McNamara, you recall the name, was the defense secretary during the war in Vietnam. In his own memoir, he said we'd made a mistake. He said he was wrong to engage that war in Vietnam. So if the defense secretary who ran the war says it was a mistake, then I'm, with all due respect to Larry Elder, I'm going to take his word over yours, brother.
I think looking back at it, we might very well have done something differently, but you have to take into consideration what people thought at the time. What people thought at the time was that communism was spreading, and if we lost Vietnam, we might even lose Japan. That was the concern. That was the consensus, and most people felt that way at the time.
And do you really,
the majority of American people supported the war at the time.
And do you really believe, again, back to your hyperbole, do you really believe that Putin needs Joe Biden to do anything to convince him that his role is to take over the world?
Under Donald Trump.
So Putin did what he did because Joe Biden pushed him in that direction?
Under Donald Trump, Putin had not taken any more territory. He invaded Ukraine in 2014 under Barack Obama. He went into Ukraine under Joe Biden. Is there a pattern here? And you did not find this kind of aggressive behavior on the part of China, on the part of North Korea, on the part of Iran that you have right now. Yeah. All because people perceive Joe Biden to be a weak, feckless commander-in-chief.
If Joe Biden is the worst president in American history, who's the best?
I would put Lincoln and Washington up there.
Why?
Well, Lincoln.
Just curious.
Lincoln saved our union, and Washington created our union. Great presidents.
Okay.
I think as commander-in-chief, FDR was a great commander-in-chief. I don't like the New Deal stuff. I think that undermined the fabric of our country. But he was a wonderful commander-in-chief regarding World War II.
Here again, your history's off. It is the New Deal that saved this democracy in the midst of the worst depression ever.
No, it didn't.
What kind of history are you reading, Larry?
The New Deal lengthened the depression, deepened the depression. There is a scholar who's at UCLA named Leo Haney, has probably done more work than anybody else on the New Deal, and he argues what I just now said, that it lengthened the Great Depression, deepened the Great Depression. Before FDR did all this New Deal stuff, we were coming out of which was a very, very severe recession, and it created it and turned it into a depression.
So every scholar except you and your friend believe that that FDR.
Milton Friedman says the same thing. Nobel laureate. Read Free to Choose.
When we come forward, I want to get to the question that we have not gotten to, and that is
Heritage Foundation, American Enterprise. These are all conservative think tanks. They all feel the same way I feel about the New Deal. It made things worse.
We discussed one side of this argument already, and that is whose fault it is if the Democrats lose this election following Joe Biden. The flip side of that question is whose fault is it, who they going to blame. Republicans are going to blame when they lose this election under Donald Trump. I want to talk about that part with Larry Elder when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on! What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
With your Los Angeles Public Library card, you can access the latest music, movies, audiobooks, ebooks, graphic novels, and more, all for free. Check it out at lapl.org/emedia. That's lapl.org/emedia.
At Lowe's, save big every day when you buy in bulk. Save 15% when you buy 10 or more select primed finger joint boards. And there's more. Save 10% on your choice of any 5 or more Reliabuilt lock sets. Visit us in-store or online for low prices on the materials you need. Because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. See sales associate for details.
I can't believe tax season is here already. Look at all this info I have to enter.
Phil's small accounting firm is growing in numbers.
Why didn't I take that typing class in high school?
A data entry specialist could really help him in a crunch.
I got blisters on my fingers.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Did you know one of the best investments you can make? It's in yourself. At My Computer Career, in just a few months, you can start your new career in the high-demand, recession-resistant field of information technology. Isn't it time you invest in you and start a career in networking, cybersecurity, AI, or upskill to boost your current IT career? So get the ROI you deserve at My Computer Career. No experience necessary. Start now at mycomputercareer.edu.
Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months, and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
So, Larry, you believe that Joe Biden is the worst president in history. I believe that Donald Trump is the worst president in history. We won't debate that.
How is that
anymore.
even possible?
Okay,
economy was the best ever for black people. Best ever. Supported school choice.
That's your opinion. That's my opinion.
Gas prices were low. Interest rates were low.
We're not going to debate
Inflation
that.
was low.
Here's my hold up.
No new war.
Here's my question. If you all lose this election in November, with all the evidence that says that you guys picked the wrong guy, all the indictments, all the court cases, all the trials, all the this, all the that. I don't need to do an editorial about that because we talk about it every day on this program anyway. If you lose this election, whose fault is it going to be?
You'll be real happy with my answer. You.
It's my fault?
You, the media.
Okay.
You guys hated Donald Trump from the very beginning. 90% of all the coverage of him has been negative. This two-tier justice system, the document case in Florida, Joe Biden has had more documents that he shouldn't have had, including when he was when he was senator in a SCIF. By definition, that's a violation of the Espionage Act. What Donald Trump is accused of regarding the New York paying his hooker money or stripper money and calling it a legal expense. Hillary Clinton and the DNC did that. They hired the Steele dossier, called it a legal expense. They got slapped on the wrist by the FEC. Donald Trump got prosecuted for that. And regarding Georgia, all Donald Trump said to the Secretary of State was find me 11,700 votes. He didn't say steal them. He said make sure that you didn't undercount them. Now all of a sudden he's being prosecuted for that? Outrageous. And this case regarding him allegedly inflating the value of his property.
Allegedly.
All real estate developers do that. You must know some. They all do that.
Well,
and Kevin O'Leary, one of the sharks on Shark Tank, went on CNN and said, "We all do this. I'm a real estate developer. We all ought to be prosecuted." And he's not a political guy. He said it's outrageous. So what's happening to Donald Trump regarding the two-tier system of justice is outrageous, and you in the media letting it go and not calling attention to it are the reason. So if Donald Trump loses, it's on you.
So I don't argue that they all do it, but you can't say they all do it and then say allegedly. Those two things don't fit in the same frame. It can't be allegedly and they all do it. Which one is it?
Nitpick.
That's not nitpicking. You said it. You can't be allegedly. You're the lawyer. It can't be allegedly and they all do it.
No one has brought a civil lawsuit against a real estate developer when nobody lost any money. All the banks said they would do business again with him.
Here's my
Letitia
question.
James ran promising to get Donald Trump. Brought a lawsuit against him that nobody has ever seen when there's never been a victim.
Here's my question. We're back to
who's the victim? Who got hurt?
We're back to you.
Who got hurt?
We're back to you in hyperbole again. Here's the point.
My hyperbole.
I started this conversation.
You make points. I make hyperbole.
I started this conversation moments ago by suggesting that if Joe Biden loses his election, he's going to have to look in the mirror. That's honesty. That's truth. That's transparency. I ask you who Trump's going to blame. If he loses, who's to blame? And you say it's me.
I didn't say Trump was going to blame the media. I said I'm going to blame the media. I'm going to blame you.
But what about Donald
I'm going to blame CNN.
You're not going to blame Trump.
I'm going to blame
him.
No, I'm not. You're not going to blame Trump.
You're not going to blame the GOP.
I don't know how this man withstands all this onslaught.
The GOP could have chosen you. They could have chosen Haiti. They could have chosen DeSantis. They could have chosen anybody.
They wanted somebody who.
It's not Trump's fault. It's not the GOP's fault. It's the media's fault.
They wanted somebody who had the job before and did the job well. Donald
Right.
Trump promised to secure the border. He did.
You heard it from Larry Elder.
He promised to have a good economy. He did.
You heard it from Larry Elder. If Joe Biden loses, it's his fault. If Trump loses, it's our fault.
It's your fault.
The
yes,
media.
You're Tavis Smiley. It's your fault.
Our remaining moments with Larry Elder when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Canick, and I'm on your March 5th primary ballot running to represent you on the County Central Committee. I know you just said the County Central what? The County Central Committee. It's an intentionally confusing way to say LA County Democratic Party, but it's the perfect way if you want to keep the status quo. County Central Committee members or delegates set the tone, policy, and vision of your Democratic Party. Far too often, voters skip over this section, and that's why the Democratic Party has fallen out of touch with today's Democrats. Democrat. Let's change that on Election Day by electing me, Jasmine Cannick. I'm a community advocate, a journalist, and a political activist who has worked at all levels of government. I live in reality, and I understand that we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I believe the Democratic Party can do more and do better. It's our future, our party. Let's make it better together. You can find out more about me at voteforjasmine.com.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Larry Elder. Okay, Larry, I'm done fighting with you for this round. Tell me about the podcast, man, the new podcast.
Just started it. I just did my 3rd episode. It should be dropping, as they say, either today or tomorrow. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. I would suggest go to my Twitter feed at Larry Elder. It's pinned right to the top. I'm also Tavis involved in a bank. It's called Old Glory Bank. It's a digital online bank. Mm-hmm. It's a non-woke bank that believes in patriotism, liberty, and security.
What's a non-woke bank? What's that mean?
Well, there's some banks like Bank of America, for example, that are ratting out their consumers. On January 6th, the government asked Bank of America to turn over records of anybody that had gone into a Dick's sporting goods store a few days before January 6th and a few days afterwards because they feared they might have been purchasing guns. So without even a court order, Bank of America did that. There's something called PayPal. And when one of the Trump boys was giving a town hall, I think it was in Missouri, PayPal refused to process the tickets because they didn't like his ideology. So, and there are also banks that have canceled people. Up in Canada, for example, the government got the banks to turn over accounts of these truckers that were protesting the coronavirus mandates. And so our bank is not going to do that to you. You're not going to be canceled. So go to oldglorybank.com. Open an account, by the way, Tavis. When you get your debit card in the mail activated, you'll get a free copy of my book, As Goes California, My Mission to Rescue the Golden State and Save the Nation, which brings us into the book. Mm-hmm. The book came out shortly after I ran for governor. When I was thinking about running for president, I hadn't made the decision yet. So it's only been out for a few weeks. Go to Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com and you can get your copy. As I said, you'll get a free copy, though, if you open an account with oldglorybank.com. Take you 8 minutes, won't cost you anything. When your debit card comes in the mail, activate it, you'll get a free copy of the book.
The podcast, I got a couple minutes left here. The podcast, I obviously those of us who know your work, and you and I, as I said earlier, worked together on a local talk station here in LA years ago. What are you covering? What's the aim and what's the end name of your podcast every time?
The name of the podcast is Larry Elder Show Podcast, and I'm covering the kind of stuff you and I talked about. The Supreme Court just ruled 9-0 in favor of Donald Trump in the Colorado case. I'm talking about why Nikki Haley's still in the race, even though she's lost every primary except just now she's won Washington State. Talking about Joe Biden and why Joe Biden, what happens if Joe Biden cannot fog up a mirror in November? It'll be Kamala Harris, and why it is that the Democrats can't get rid of her, even though her numbers are worse than his. This idea that Gavin Newsom is going to swoop in and take the nomination is ridiculous. Black people are the most loyal part of the Democratic base, and like it or not, black women love Kamala Harris. And if she's perceived to be dropkicked for some white dude like Mayor Pete or Gavin Newsom, they'll be held to pay. They won't vote Republican. They won't vote, thereby guaranteeing that Donald Trump will win the nomination. They can't afford to do that. So they're stuck with Kamala Harris.
Speaking of Gavin Newsom, you ran against him in the recall election. You did. Lost to Gavin Newsom, and now there's another recall effort, as you know, to try to take him out again. When is enough?
Somehow I figured you were going to bring this up.
No, I'm asking. I'm just asking. When is enough enough? They're going to try to recall this guy again?
All I know is that if it calls attention to what's happened in California regarding crime, regarding homelessness, regarding the fact that people are leaving the state for the first time in 170 years, we've lost 1 million people in the last 3 years. Our cost of living is through the roof. The average price of a home in California is twice the national average, largely because of policies pushed by people like Gavin Newsom and the supermajority of Democrats in Sacramento. So if the recall does nothing but shed attention to that, I'm good with it. Will it work? Probably not. We are outnumbered 3-1 here in California. Hasn't been a Republican elected statewide in California in almost 20 years. Whether it's Garvey or whether it's anybody else,
what about a waste of taxpayers' money? Speaking of math, we're going to do this again and waste more taxpayer money?
It's interesting when Democrats talk about wasting money. You guys have spent and spent and spent. Once we have inflation because Joe Biden has spent trillions of dollars, but you're concerned now about taxpayer money.
But that is what you said earlier. All of a sudden. That is what you said earlier. What you said earlier was, doesn't matter who's in the White House, the budget keeps going. The deficit keeps going. That's what you said earlier. Didn't matter whether Democrat
Name a president that spent the money the way Joe Biden did.
Donald Trump.
So that he was paying people not. Donald Trump was not paying people not to work. There was a study done by Bank of America economists, and they were not Trump supporters, that said if you're making $30,000 or less, it made more sense for you not to work than to work under the policies.
All I know is that Trump passed out the checks and made sure his signature was on it. That's all I know.
Well, I didn't agree with that either. I didn't. When Republicans spend money on so-called infrastructure, it's called investment. When Democrats do it, it's called pork. It's called pork either way.
Larry Elder, with a new podcast, a new book, and a new bank called Old Glory. I don't know when we'll do this again. Hopefully not too soon. But
all you have to do is ask me.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, hopefully not too soon.
Tavis says jump, Elder says how high, and I don't come down until Tavis tells me to.
Whatever. Larry,
that's the way that rolls.
Good to see you, my friend.
You too, my man.
More Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black and several other fires are also raging in the area. A Colorado paramedic was